Welcome to the Creation of Living podcast. I'm your host, Heather Nichols, and I'm delighted you're here. Join me for conversations and inspirations for creating way more in every area of your life and living. Welcome, everybody, to Creation of Living podcast. Today, I have the lovely and amazing Miss Ava Pandit here with me. She is an Access Consciousness certified facilitator and also works with me on my team in my business and has been a huge contribution to me becoming a Access Consciousness 3-day Body Class Facilitator. And it's been such an amazing journey that we wanted to come and just kind of talk about it, because it was a lot of magic got created in this time. So thank you, Ava, for being here, and thank you for the incredible contribution you be to me and my life and my business and everything.
Oh, thank you. It's been such a joyride for me to be a part of this extravaganza of the magic that we created. So much fun.
Oh, totally. It was totally an extravaganza of magic. It was. So those of you who are listening and you're like, what are you talking about? So in Access Consciousness, there's a lot of different specialty areas that you can facilitate. And I facilitate a lot of them, Joy of Business, X-Men, and this being you. And this was one that I had been putting on for a good decade, was 3-day Body Facilitator. And the prerequisites for this, facilitating this particular 3-day class, are to facilitate each body process that is in this manual for this 3-day class. So there's 60 of these body processes. They're all these energetic hands-on processes that create a lot of change and a lot of possibility in bodies. And so in order to become a 3-day body class facilitator, you actually have to do each body process that's in the manual as its own standalone class to 6 or more paying people. And a lot of people like myself are like, oh my God, that's so hard, And I started doing it about 12 years ago, I believe. No, 10 years ago. 2012 was my first class. And at that time they were changing the list a lot. And there was a lot of, and I basically was like, it's too hard. I did about 20 of them. And I was like, it's too hard. I can never do it.
And then how much time did it take you to actually do all of, to say even majority would be an understatement, because
53
yes.
of them. 6 months. I did it in 6 months.
Woohoo!
Yeah. It was amazing. And it was so funny because I, 7 of the 20 that I did back in between 2012, 2015, they still counted. But the other 13 had been taken off the list because the list changes, and it was one of those things where I was like, I'd love to do that, but I'm going to just do everything else but that, even though I love bodies and and every time I would ask myself, what's the future that I would like to create? Like, what's the future that I know is possible? It was always like bodies. And I was like, well, I can do body stuff in other ways, which I do, and I did, and I can, and I still will, but this was a big one.
Heather, can I ask you a question around that? Because I've always been curious around, first of all, this entire creation, having seen you walk through this journey for me has been also such an inspiration, and I've been such an awe of how all these tools we talk about in Access were literally used, applied, and they created, the Joy of Business, X-Men, but it was such an embodiment of all of these different classes that Access A offers, but B, more importantly, like you facilitate them. So I've been curious, what was different for you? What changed this thing from, okay, all right, we're just doing it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I attribute that to two beautiful ladies in my life, and you've heard me talk about this. Rachel O'Brien and Sylvia Puentes, who are both 3-day body facilitators. And Sylvia was actually in process of doing the prerequisites herself when we had this conversation, and Rachel had done it already. And Rachel she said to me one day, she said, "I can tell you how to do it really easily." And I was like, "What? Like, what do you mean you can tell me how to do it really easily?" It's not easy, it's hard. And so we got on a call. We had a call with each other. I think it was in December. And she said, just, this is all about receiving. Creating this is all about receiving. And I was like, oh my gosh, I never even considered that. And she said, get a bunch of people together that would like to host you, ask them if they can, get enough people together for a class, and how many classes they would like to host you for, and start creating with them, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, what? And it showed me this thing of like, because I really had this, and this is very much like a joy of business tool, I would say, or I don't know what the tool exactly would be, but like energy, joy of business energy, where I really had this sense of like, that I would need to get all the people there, like that I would, and I was like, well, I live in Colorado and people aren't that active here. It's going to be impossible to create the classes here, which actually completely was not true. It was really cool. I love you, Colorado people. You're amazing. I had such an incredible group of people supporting me here, which was really beautiful. But I realized that I had really been looking at it. So it was so small, how I had seen it as like, I have to create it all. And I have to, which is how business is in this reality, and I went, oh my gosh, wait, I can just ask for people to contribute, and I can receive their contribution. And then this conversation with Sylvia, where Sylvia said, well, yeah, you can ask people to contribute by coming to your class. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, okay, I get it about asking people to host me, but now I can ask people to contribute by coming to my class and paying me money. Like, you're not supposed to do that. That's not how business works in this reality.
Yeah. And that's been one of the most fascinating things for me to look at. And we have had a little conversation around it sometimes, how sometimes we take the tools and kind of like use them against ourselves. So we hear about we hear about things like agendas and secret agendas, and then we're like instantly, all right, I'm on it. Having agendas is wrong, so I'm not going to have any agendas. And I noticed how you were so different, because like from this reality's point of view, one could say you guys had an agenda to create classes, or a target, like depending on how you view it. But you were so different, Heather, with just having that ease of even asking people and just embracing what this is without having, in fact, not just embracing, but including everybody in the whole process.
Yeah. That was really fun. It was really, really fun. And it still is, like, we're still going, and I will say, like, also just so much joy of business woven through this whole thing. I'm so grateful for the joy of business, because it really has, like, I do business so differently, more and more all the time, because of the joy of business and those tools and conversations. And this really was, we have this 3-day class, Business Done Different. This really was a business done different creation,
Absolutely. I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah. And it's so cool because, there's so many different things we can talk about here. But one thing I just want to kind of like side note mention is, I had started asking about a year ago. I was like, okay, what would it take for all of my choices to actually change the world, and also for me to be something that allows that to be the case, that allows all of my choices to change the world, like to be willing to have that kind of an impact, and it did have that sense of that. Like I've had so many people say, how vastly, like what a huge contribution this was to them to see me create this. Because it really is, for those of you who aren't, don't know, how this all goes, like doing it in 6 months is really, really fast. I mean, most people probably take years to do it, and you could say I took 10 years, I kind of did, but once I chose it, it was 6 months, boom. And it became this like because I really never stopped seeing it as kind of like an exercise in receiving. And when people were like, hey, do you need me to pay for the class? Do you need me to come to the class and pay for the class? And I was like, yeah, actually, it was like, I like, because everybody knew what was going on, and that's the thing. It wasn't a secret agenda, and I don't know, was it an agenda? Maybe, maybe not. It was just my desire to create this. But it had this feeling of like, oh, but this is like for me, like it's going to be for my business, and that I get to do these things, and it's going to be really fun. And there also was that sense of like the gift that this is to bodies, like really. And it was so wild because once I really stepped into that, like I'm choosing this not because it's a goal that I have, but I'm choosing this because of what I would like to see with bodies on the planet and what these body processes create for bodies and what they've created for me. And what I know is possible. It was just like that energy really like just set the whole thing in motion. And so many people were so happy to contribute to that.
Absolutely. And as you say that, what pops is the reality that you've been talking about lately. Like this is such a non-reality reality that it's like, how we have that question, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? I don't know if you asked that in words or not, but you were totally embodying that knowing of what this is going to create. And there was not an iota of doubt. There was not there was no calculations in terms of what this is. It was not a give and take at all. It was such a beautiful gifting and receiving for, I think, I can safely say, for everybody involved. So thank you for showing us that.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much for being part of it. I mean, and it was like because I had to, there was a bunch of things that I chose in the beginning. One of them, I was like, I'm doing this, like, and I'm going to ask, I am going to receive when it's uncomfortable to receive. I'm still going to receive. I'm going to be willing to ask everybody to contribute, like whoever that may be, whether it's coming to my class and paying for the class, or, hosting me, or whatever, like the team and having you come on. Like, it was just like, I'm asking for everybody's contributions to this. And so, it was such a receiving for me. And I started, and I really saw it, like I started to see, because basically what I did was I traveled all over, a lot of it in the US, which was really cool. There's some more stuff I want to say about that in a minute, but, and then some classes in Europe as well in the spring. And once I got going with it, I was like, oh my gosh, I could do one here, and I could do one here, and I could do one then, and I could do one then. And ooh, there's a spot for one. And I wonder who would want to have me this time. And, and it took on this momentum of its own where because I didn't set out to do it in 6 months, I was like, maybe I could do it this year, and that would have been fast, but once the momentum started moving and the energy was there, it was just like, of course I want to do another one. Of course, like where else can I go, And the thing that was also really huge about it for me is that I really, really did not look at it as like, I didn't do the computation at all. Like you were saying, I didn't look at the money at all, because these classes are relatively inexpensive classes. A day with me was anywhere from $100 to $200, depending on where I was. If I was home, it was less. If I was somewhere, New York or whatever, it was more. But still, even $200 for a full day class with me is really cheap, and I didn't make money. I actually funded this. Like I actually paid for this, like I didn't make money on it. And it wasn't, to me, that just didn't even matter. It was like, I need to do this. Like, it's time for me to do this. And so I'm going to do it, and if I have to pay for it, I pay for it. But the cool thing is that because I didn't have that computation anywhere in my world, and I really was choosing it for the fun and the joy and the contribution and the creation of it and all of that, like the future that I knew it was creating and could create. It was so cool to see, again, like total joy business, how money showed up in my life in so many other ways. And there was a lot of magic with money in this time, a lot of magic. And I couldn't possibly even talk about all of it in this conversation, but it had nothing to do with like the direct income from the classes, but it was like, I was choosing to create a future. And when you choose to create a future, money comes.
That's so awesome. Oh my God. That also reminds me of how many times I was just going through the Joy of Business book recently. And, there's a thing where we talk about, how planning is not wrong, but you've got to know that, plans are not set in stone. You can change your mind and change your plans in a dime. And how many times that occurred. And even I was thinking of one of the classes and how it was not moving, and there was like just a few days, and you were so willing to be like, we don't have to do it. And just that choice of letting go from that spaciousness, it just changed overnight. Like we were literally looking at, if not here, where else can this be? And it just changed everything. Registration started rolling in, and not just in one class. Like I saw this magic occur over and over and over, and it was just spectacular.
It was amazing. I mean, this was like really such an incredibly magical creation, and it continues to be. Like, it really changed for me, my business, and me, and because I was just like, I'm doing this. I know I'm doing this. The universe has my back. All these people have my back, and I mean, one of the hosts, like, there were just like, I also want to just massively shout out, I couldn't possibly list everybody's names, but the hosts, the incredible, incredible people that hosted me this whole way. Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful people. You are actually, I think it was all ladies. I was like, is it all ladies? I think it was all ladies. Thank you, beautiful ladies, beautiful creatures. Because you were gracious beyond. I mean, the contribution that you all were to me just absolutely, really changed my life. And in one of the classes, and this is one example, there's a million of them, but in one of the classes, this lady said, I actually cried in the morning before a class when she told me this. She said, my husband's taking the day off work today to take your class, because we had just 6 people in that one. And I was like, really? And he doesn't do access. He's not interested in access, but she said to him, he said, why am I doing this? And she said, because when I do this, and if I do this, when I do this, I would want somebody to do that for me. And he was like, okay, I'm in. And I just cried. I was like, oh my gosh, what? He's taking the day off work to come to my class. Like, it was just but that's the receiving that, and it's so amazing because, when we contribute, like, contribution is totally a two-way, it's not even a two-way street. It's a spherical universe of gifting and receiving, where they're occurring simultaneously. And this was such an example of contribution, like this whole thing, and how much greater, like, what I like, so here's something I wanted to talk about with the US is, so years ago, Brazil was absolutely exploding with access consciousness. It was growing like wildfire. And I was in a facilitators class with Gary Douglas and Dane here, the creators of Access. And I said to Gary, what's it going to take for, for access consciousness to take off in the US the way that it has in Brazil? And he said, he said, people are kind of in hiding right now. And this was, I don't even know, it was maybe 4 years ago or something like that. He said, people are kind of, in hiding right now. And he said, at some point, they're going to come out of the woodwork and they're going to be looking for you. And he said, be there when they are. And so this was an ask of mine, it really was an ask of mine for a long time, even before that conversation, to see the United States really start to flourish with access consciousness. Because it's been, in the beginning it took off, and then it's been very kind of quiet in the US compared to a lot of other countries. And I've seen lots of countries over the years boom and then kind of slow down and whatever. But so this summer, as you know, Ava, I got this idea of like, I'm going to do a road trip. I'm going to do a body class road trip. And it just sort of like, we started looking at it, and we started looking at like, okay, so who do we know and where, and I know so many, all these amazing hosts, ladies that I know all over the US. And I was like, hey, would you like to host it? Do you think you could put a class together? Who can, and I started looking at like my calendar, and I was like, I could go here, here, and here, and then there and there. And, just looking at the logistics of it all. And I put together this tour in July where I did 22 of the body classes, and you can do 2 in a day, so I did many full day classes back to back to back. And I was in Kansas, I was in Iowa, I was in Nebraska, Chicago, Florida, Nashville, Asheville, Chattanooga, Seattle. I was here in Boulder, and it was just like body class time. Like July was like, we're going to do it. We're going to complete this, and I went and in New York as well as, and then in the spring, I was in California. I did some in Salt Lake City. So I think I've now mentioned all the places where I went in the US. But it was so cool to see people actually really come out of the woodwork and really show up for these classes. And in some communities, it was people who had never taken an access class before. Like in Kansas, I think we had 3. In Redding, California in the spring, I think we had maybe 3, or I don't know, but people had never done access before. And then, places where people were really experienced. Oh, in Asheville, we had 3 people sign up an hour before class that had never done access before. That was amazing.
That was amazing.
That was so cool. And that was such a beautiful class. And so it was just a sense of like, because the hosts were like, I've been asking for something different in my town, and I went to some places where there wasn't a whole lot going on, but I just knew people there from, my classes or other classes. I just knew people there that were like, I would like to contribute to you. Yes. Like, let's do it. I'll get your people. Like, we'll do this, and they all did. And so, but to see what a contribution it was also to them and their like communities, where they live, to have these classes going on. And then people got excited about more stuff and different classes and different creations. And, they're like in Asheville, one of the ladies was like, I got a bars class coming, and they were like, oh, I want more, So it was just so cool to see like truly, again, the contribution that it all was. And this sense of like, wow, like I've just moved across the United States in the past 6 months and been, belly to belly on the ground with a lot of people, and gotten to meet so many beautiful people and have so many incredible conversations. And look, and it was like, this is something I've been asking for the US, and so that was really a really cool part of it as well.
Yeah. And like that, the speaking of Asheville class, there was so much magic in each of these classes. But like that particular one really stood out for me because like we were a day before the class and we're like, are we going to be doing this?
Yeah.
And you knew and you
I
followed
did.
on that knowing and you drove all the way and they showed up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we had 2 people signed up the night before or something like that. And I had just finished a class in Nashville. And I was like, I'm driving from Nashville to Asheville. So it's 4 hours apart, even though there's only 1 letter difference, right? Different states. But I was like, I know I'm going to Asheville. I don't really know why. I don't know what, but I'm going. And the class was like later in the afternoon. That day we did like a, later day class. And it was just so magical how like, and again, I reached out and just asked like my beautiful friend Suki, who I shout out to her as well if she's ever listens to this. But she, she had lived in Boulder for years and moved there and was a body worker. And I went and had a massage with her that day, which was so wonderful. And I was like, Suki, we need more people for this class. Like but I was really willing to do, I knew I was going to do the class. I was like, if we have 2 people, I'm still going to do it, because of what I knew it was going to create. And she just called up her friends and all of her body worker friends. And she was like, who wants to come? And people were like, me, like 3 people just went, yeah, we're coming in an hour. Okay, we'll be there. It was on a Wednesday. It wasn't even on a weekend. It was on a Wednesday. I mean, but this is what happens when you choose and you receive. And you really let the whole universe contribute. It's like, okay, I don't know how this is going to happen, but it is.
Business done different. Like how many times we approach a target or we're like, okay, we're going to create this. First of all, even with that, there's so many points of views and, secret points of views even that we keep from ourselves underneath that and conclusions and things like that. But like just that act of choosing and going all in. And how many times, how Gary often says that most of the times you guys give up right before you're about to succeed. Yeah, and like to watch you not do that. Oh, yeah. Like it was so amazing to see how that act like this shit works.
It does. It does. And we did not actually the very first class that I did in February, I was supposed to do in February when I started the whole thing. I had a class here at my house and we didn't have enough people and I ended up canceling it. And I was like, oh God, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to have to plan for like 200 classes to get 60, and it was so amazing because I had a chat with Dane here, who's one of the creators of Access. And he said, why are you doing this? And I said, oh, I realized at that time, and this was just a fleeting moment, thank goodness. But I was like, oh, I'm doing it to become a 3-day body class facilitator, like so that I can do those classes, and it was kind of like the body process classes don't really matter. They're not that great. They're not, like there was this underlying point of view that I had that I did not know that I had, and I went, oh my gosh. But the reason I wanted to become a 3-day body facilitator is because these processes are such a gift to the world and they change everything, like everything, And I went, I can start doing that right now. Like I can start facilitating that right now. And I let go of those points of view. Now this is a huge, a big one for Joy of Business and I mean, any access, anything, you let go of points of view, things open up, you have more possibility. And I went, okay, I'm letting go of those points of view that I have of like, this is just something I have to do, a bunch of hoops to jump through to get to a goal. And I went, I'm going to step in today, right now, to being a 3-day body class facilitator. And that's how I'm going to facilitate these classes. is from that space, from the space of the gift that these energies are, the world that I desire to see, what I know is possible with bodies, what I wish for other people to be able to have with their bodies, what I've received from this with my body. And it was like, I'm doing that right now. I don't have to wait, I don't have to do the 60 to get to choose that, and I did. And we never had a class. None of the rest of the classes that we created did not none of them didn't go. We didn't cancel them. We always had at least 6 people. From then on, it was like game on. Everything changed. And there were moments where we were like, we don't know if we're going to, like that class in Nashville, where it was like, we have 2 people a morning of, let's see what else we can create, So.
So incredible. And, I'm just going to do a shameless plug here because I was in the last round of this generative business pods with Heather. And this is one of the things that I found the most unique about this program as well with you, Heather, because having a space where, because A, you're using the tools, B, you're embodying them all the damn time and sharing with the world how you're using them. And the more intimate your programs are, the more you share, even more than you do in on the public platforms and stuff. Mm-hmm. And just getting together with you and having these conversations, they dynamically open up something in your universe to start accessing that space of being for yourself. What is the space of, what is it that Heather is being? And it's that's been one of the gifts that, like I said, it's been such a joyride for me, because I got to receive so much about that being piece that we talk about all the damn time. And I've done a bunch of other classes with you, so it just stands true for all of them, that you just show that possibility. So to me, being around that was such a gift. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah. And I do, thank you so much. And I do really, in the business pods, that's a 6-month business creation program. And I take it too, I facilitate it and I take it. So I take all my classes. I love that about facilitating. I am in there with everybody, exploring, the tools and the conversations and the possibilities, and sharing it, and being like, hey, this is what I found. And this is what,
I just realized that this round of business pods is called Choosing for You. And that's exactly what you've been doing. Oh my God. I didn't put these pieces together until this moment. Wow. Of course, that's what the topic is. And, that's where we're going with that.
Wow. Yeah. And how amazing it is that when you think you're choosing for you, you're actually choosing for the world, and and for me, a part of it is also really choosing what is possible, and the receiving, that when we just let the universe contribute, it's so massive, so magical. Now I need to just, we need to talk about you a little bit here, because this journey would not be, it would have been extraordinarily different without you. So I'm just going to tell people what you did. So Ava coordinated all of these classes. I mean, and this is no small task. We were, I did 22 of them in the month of July, so, and, some of them were double, one day or whatever. But she was there. She was working with the hosts. She had her eye on the numbers. She was providing them with resources and materials and training, and, checking people in, and working also very closely with Leilani Badenhorst, who also works with us and is a gift of absolute magnitude. Just such an incredible lady, and gem and creature and unicorn, and
literally a creature. I call her Super Leilani because she's not even like a Superman she's just Super Leilani because she's so unique and brilliant. I love her.
And the kindness and the presence that she bees is just unparalleled, really. So she's going to blush when she hears this, because we know she's going to listen. but so the two of you guys really, being so present with all of this and bringing so much magic to it. And you have this, like, I feel like when we, like, because we started this and then you jumped in, really close to the beginning of everything. I think I had just done a few classes, but I had this sense of like the Ava magic is in the house.
Oh,
I don't think I've actually told you that, but I was like, ooh, there's Ava magic.
oh,
And you have such a space of also just like incredible kindness and contribution and presence. And I mean, I've worked with a lot of people that they show up, they're there for a little bit, they disappear, they come back, they disappear. Like a lot of people do that, you never do that. Leilani never does that. Like nobody on my team at this point really does that. But you just were there and you were adding your energy to the whole thing the whole time. And I mean, there aren't words, there's no like, I mean, you were doing a lot, but it's really what you were being that was a massive contribution to this.
oh, thank you so much, Heather. Oh, I'm like melting here. Thank you. It was so, I think, when you're congruent with something, because like watching you all the times, like for years I've seen you from distance and having to got to know you better. And like, just there's something about the embodiment piece with you that I always, whenever I've looked at you, I'm like that. And you put things to words, you diminish them. So I'm not even going to go there. But like, to me, it was like, of course, this is what I want to see in the world. I want to not just see you become a 3-day body class facilitator. I want to do a 3-day body class with you. So like, to me, it was like, and also I have to say, like, everybody in the team, of course, you being the leader here, like, it's such a different space. It's like literally space of business, which is also very unique, which I found here. And I'm like, it was like, there've been times I cried myself to sleep only because I was so grateful, because I was like, how did I get so lucky to be working in a space, like literally that, to be working in a space. And like, there's such an honoring of everybody. There's such a communion. So like, I think I was so congruent with that. This is what I want to see more of in the world, that it was just easy. And the way you take care of everyone and everything, like, I know so many times you reached out to me and you were like, I think, we're doing a lot of classes. Let's add some people. And I was like, this is easy. Like, it doesn't feel like a lot to me at all. Don't worry about it. We got this. Like, it was, and I think it's somewhere comes down to like the space you be that makes it so easy to work with you. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. You just turned that around. Look at you. No, you.
But that's the beauty here. There's so much of gifting and receiving of you, me, and everybody in the team. So like, I absolutely love being, I'd say, and everything that I get to do in that.
Oh, that is so awesome. Yeah, we do. We have an amazing gaggle, as we call it, conglomeration of idiots moving in a similar direction. And that is an absolute compliment. We all love being happy idiots. So mindless, not having a mind. And that's it. That's been a huge part of this too. And that's very much, how access is with everything. I would say, like, just, the less you think, the less you compute, the less you try to figure things out, the less you try to force things, like the less you have a mind with everything, and with business and creation, with your body, with all of it, the more magic you have available. And then it's like, just, like getting to actually have business as a space of receiving, and a space of creation and contribution, and, getting to play with people. And, there are moments where it's like, frustrating or whatever. But for the most part, it's like, the team that we have now is really absolute gold. Just really there's some really fun things going on. And it's fun because I actually just recently, I was like, I've been asking to let go of control for a long time in my business. And I'm actually finally doing it, which is really cool. It only took me like 10 years, it only took me 10 years to let go and become a 3-day body facilitator. I'm sure they have nothing in common. Yeah. Also, yeah. Wow. Well, what a conversation. Thank you for this. It's fun to just kind of like, have a little sort of like walk down memory lane or something like that. Like that's kind of corny, but just look at the whole thing because we've never really chatted about it like this. And yeah, I guess really the reason I wanted to share this with everybody is just, please know that whatever you desire to create, you can, and there are people that would like to contribute to you and that will contribute to you. And whether it's becoming a 3-day body facilitator or, another thing in access consciousness or another thing in your life, like whatever it may be, it's like, how much more could we all receive? And what if business and creation really was about receiving? What if it was about creating a future? What if it was about contribution? And when you have that space, when you are, that's one of the biggest things for me from all of this is like when you are creating a future and when you're creating the future that the universe contributes to you in the most incredible ways. And you don't have to think about it. It's like, like funding the whole thing and being like, I don't know how, like, I just know I'm doing this. I'll just pay for it, and knowing that that just did not need to be something that I even thought about. And it really wasn't. It was like, and that also created for me this incredible space of peace and ease with money in a way that I've never had that before either. It was like, wow, I just, I didn't look at it. I just was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm creating this future, So what future do you know is available and possible? What do you uniquely know that if you chose it, the universe and the world could not help but line up to contribute to you making it happen?
Oh, I love it so much. What a brilliant question. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for listening in, for being here. Thank you, Ava, for everything and for being here to chat with me. And what else is possible? What else can we create from here? I wonder. How does it get better?
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Take care. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me for the Creation of Living podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it and leave me a review. If you would like more, you can find all kinds of resources and upcoming events at heathernichols.com. Until next time, remember, my beautiful friends, the world thrives when you do.